Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, David.
I'm David Mork. It's the 16th of October, 2024. This is Bill Schink. This is part of the Rotary Sun Lakes Heritage Project. I appreciate you coming today.
It was my pleasure.
This is, as I said, 2024. There are videos of folks that have sat in that same location for years ago, back in 2011, 2012, when I started this project. So this will be on YouTube, and as long as YouTube exists, people will be able to see it.
Oh,
So
that's good or bad.
It's a long time. So you've been a member of this club since 2010?
2010, October of 2010.
So
I can't remember.
But prior to that, this is not your first rodeo in Rotary. There you go.
Yeah, I transferred in from the Woodinville, Washington club, and I was a member there starting October of 25.
So October is a big day.
October seems to be consistent.
Is this the October surprise?
This is the October surprise.
Because this is October, folks. So I'm going to go with the questions that we have. There are 13 questions that we've asked of all the Rotarians that have been a part of this project, Bill. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at them and we can figure out what's next as far as that goes.
Okay.
I assume you will sign that allowing this to go on YouTube, not now, but you'll do that next. So there are 13 questions. The first one, of course, doesn't apply, so you weren't a charter member. But again, number 2 is, if you were not a charter member, how did you become a Sun Lakes Rotarian? How long have you been here? And what were you doing in the prior club?
Well, I originally joined Rotary in October of 2005. And how that came about is that I had retired from Ford Motor Company in 1999. And so we moved into a community called Maltby, which is right next to Woodinville. And so I was searching for what I wanted to do, and I found that there was a food bank in that town called the Maltby Food Bank.
Oh, yeah.
And they supported the food bank area for a certain geographic area there in the Seattle area. And they were in a facility that they rented. And the owner of that building, who was in real estate development, was moving on to a different geographical location and offered to sell his location to us. So we thought that was a good idea because then we would have permanency.
The food bank.
Yeah, the food bank would have permanency. So I went to bank and said, we want to buy it. What do we have to do? Well, you're a nonprofit. First thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to get down payment. Okay? So I said, well, how much is that going to be? Well, it was going to be a little under $100,000, which was a fair amount
Of money.
of money. We were able to raise almost all of that, but we were short about $19,000 of having what we needed. I mean, we're up against a time frame here from when the guy wanted to sell. So I went to the local Rotary, Woodinville Rotary Club.
As a non-Rotarian.
As a non-Rotarian. I was not a Rotarian at that time. And I said, we need some help. So they came out and they talked to me and I told them what we were doing and how we were going to pay it back and all this kind of thing. And so they went back and they came back and gave us $19,000.
Wow.
Okay?
As a non-Rotarian circle, that's amazing.
Non-Rotarian. Now they'd had some interaction with the food bank before, so this wasn't new to them. And so then they came back and said, now, we really like, Bill, what you do, because I was on the board and, you know, I honchoed the sale and got it all, the transactions done through the county and all that kind of stuff, and the bank. Fortunately, the bank that we went to, the manager happened to be a Rotary. So I went through a lot of gyrations to prove that we could pay it back and all that kind of stuff, but she already had me down for, yeah, we're going to approve the loan, you know. But anyway, so I said, well, gee, yeah, I'd like to find out a little more about Rotary. So I went to a few meetings, and then I said, yeah, I want to sign up. And they were a small club. They kept their membership between 40 and 50 because they liked the small club camaraderie, you know, the working relationships that you get from that. And so I joined, and I worked a lot on their golf tournament, their fundraiser, which was an auction. And then in 2010, we decided that we were going to move to Sun Lakes. We've been coming down here for several years, for a couple of months, usually March and April, rent, that kind of thing. So we got a really good feeling for Sun Lakes.
Right.
And then I'd come to the Rotary Club meeting, so I had a good chance to meet the people, see what kind of club it was and that kind of thing.
I remember you as a visiting Rotarian.
Right. And then, so, and then Norm Noble,
Sure.
he was my
Sponsor,
sponsor, that's the word I was looking for.
who is now back in Seattle.
Back in Seattle and Woodinville, as a matter of fact.
How's that for full circle?
So in October, I officially became a member. And so that's, yeah, October of 2010.
So for future viewers of this, Norman Noble was a Boeing marketing guy, had his own company for years, became a Sun Lakes Rotarian, bought a house, lived in Ironwood,
Yes.
became president of this club, and eventually health got in the way, sold his house, moved somewhere south and east of here, and then got worse, and he's now with his wife back in the Seattle area.
Assisted living. You know.
Where he started some 25, 30 years ago.
Well, he was not only the president, but he, I think after his presidency, he became chair of the golf tournament when we held the golf tournament over at the Ocotillo Golf Course. I don't know if you remember that or not.
I don't think, I wasn't, I was working, so I didn't know.
And he had the last, at that point in time, really successful golf tournament in terms of having 100% of golfers signed up. So he was at capacity.
All the holes were filled, yeah.
All the holes were filled. And then after that, so this would be around probably 2012 and that kind of thing, about that time frame. The tournament kind of went downhill, where he had 144 members. By 2013, not members, but golfers.
Right.
By 2013, we were down to 86.
And that was still at Ocotillo.
And that was at Ocotillo, yeah.
Wow.
And I think that was about the time we started to move the tournament from Ocotillo to Oakwood, yeah. So.
During those years, Sandy, my wife, and I were away, and we didn't play or do much in the tournament in those years. But that's in Woodinville, Chateau Ste. Michelle Winery is not far from you.
Michelle Winery.
Yeah.
Right.
Were they a big part of your club, or not so much?
Not so much. But it's interesting that our winery actually had our own vineyards.
Yes.
We had Vineyard, which was located in a self-storage facility along one wall.
Really?
Right. And then there was a company that had a facility where they grew plants. So they gave us a piece of property and we planted another vineyard.
Oh my.
And we had some wine experts in our club there.
Yeah.
And so we actually picked the grapes, made the wine, bottled it, labeled it, and then we sold those bottles at the auction.
Wow. I'm not going to ask if you had a license to do all that. I'm not going to go there. But that is really cool. I didn't realize that. That's cool. That's amazing. So, as you go down the list, this club provides some great opportunities for service. Can you tell us how you've been able to meet the challenges of life, and still be involved in the Sun Lakes Rotary project, such as chairing the golf tournament, which you did for years? By the way.
Well, of course, I was retired from Ford, and that used to take a considerable amount of my time every day, so I had really a big hole there in my day that I needed to fill, and I wanted to get into something where I could get back to the community, and that kind of thing, to potentially get some challenging kinds of projects to work on, because I like that. I like to be able to work as part of a team and establish goals and that kind of stuff and get the stuff done. And
You've done that.
And
I've been on your committee.
So, I started to get into it a little bit in terms of fundraisers at the Woodinville Club, which was just a big evening auction. But, they made $125,000, $150,000 doing that. And
So it wasn't a checkbook club, but it was a
it wasn't a
big
checkbook
club.
It was a
that
big club.
did good things.
Right.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then when I came to the Sun Lakes Club, I was looking for things to do, and I started out helping Frank Wiley, because he was kind of a one-man operation, I think, for the tournament at that point in time. And so I started out by helping him on the silent auction and live auction items.
So most of the activities that you've been involved in are centered around the, I know you do the splash, you got that.
Right, I do the splash.
But they're centered around the golf event. And when you did become an officer of this club, and I think you were, well, now we only have one-term presidents, but what were the year that you, Rotary year, that you were the president?
I was 213, 214.
Okay.
And I followed Gene Nicholas,
Oh.
who was 212, 213.
Right.
So when Gene was president, I was president-elect. And I had agreed to be an officer. I started out for a VP, but I was only VP for a couple of weeks. The lady who was going to be the president-elect dropped out. So I moved up to president-elect
Boom.
right away. So then when...
And if I recall correctly, over the years of this club, that hasn't happened very often.
It
But
hasn't.
it
It's
started,
one time.
but it started with you, basically. Because now it's like, okay, but you were one of the first
I was one of
to
the
have
first.
that,
Yeah.
not knowing. So that became president-elect under Gene, and then you were the president. We were still here at Oakwood, yes?
Correct. We were at Oakwood at that time.
Pre-COVID, COVID wasn't here yet.
No, this was, mine was 2013, 14. COVID didn't happen until 2020.
Right.
And Gene and I got together when he was president early on, and we kind of sat down and said what we needed to do on some of the areas. Like, we'd kind of gotten pretty loosey-goosey with the budget,
Really?
Okay.
As a former treasurer, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Roger Rindernick was treasurer at that time or not, but, or whether you were,
No, I wasn't.
I can't remember. And then,
Rindernick was.
yeah,
That would have been.
Rindernick was. And so we worked to get that more formalized like it is now.
Right.
Okay,
Wow.
and back where we could have some control really over planning and cost and that kind of thing. One of the other areas that was a problem was a complete lack of leadership on Foundation 2000. Remember that?
Do I ever?
So, Gary Whiting stepped in, helped us out on that. And then probably the third area, which is membership. We had gone from something like 100 members down to about 70 members. And Gene's took over. And that's when we formalized a study team. We got Charles Lowe to take that, put together a process, and got that implemented. So a lot of what I did and Gene did was we got together and said, what we need is that we need to have two people so that we get it started in one and make sure it gets implemented by the second time. So
Right.
we were in lockstep on a lot of those things. So a lot of the things he started or we started together, and then we carried it through when I became president and president-elect.
Well, it's 10 years later now.
Right.
We still do many of those things.
We do.
That you started. I mean, really, that's kind of what this is all about, trying to figure out who's the guy that started this process. And, having been involved in the budget for 6 terms or 5 or 6 terms, it's a process that now seems to have support. It seems to have a way for the people to understand what are we doing here, and where does this money come from, and where does it go before we start the Rotary year.
Right.
And that's really, I give you credit for that.
Well,
And
yeah.
anybody watching this should also say thank you, Bill Schink.
And Gene.
And Gene
Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Right, yeah. Because a lot of these things and that's the way the golf tournament ended up kind of flowing also, is it gets restarted and then you build on it. Every year you make improvements, you get better, usage. Because I think that eventually got us into the strategic planning process that further on down the line in other administrations.
Yeah, we just talked about that with Marge Wright earlier today. She was actually the one that started the strategic plan.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that when I was on the leadership roles, we did that. It was an update of the plan. It made sense. The club knew it. And really that's the foundation. And I think really that's why I'm doing this interview with you, I had no clue. And those of you who watch this now know can go, Bill, you're the guy that we can rely on.
Well, it's interesting to see how a lot of these processes got put in place and what they've done for us. And
Well, I could be your straight man here. Well, gee, Bill, what's your greatest accomplishment when you were an officer? And I think we know.
well, my first great accomplishment was the splash. I started helping Hal Cotles on his route.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Go over to his place, band him up, throw him out the door on his van, and he'd drive. And then eventually he moved to Colorado, and I took over, and I've been doing it ever since. And, that's been a really great money maker for
this
the club, both in terms of charity things and administrative.
And on the YouTube video site, the Heritage channel of YouTube,
Yeah.
Hal Cowles is one of the interviewees.
Is he?
You'll find them on there.
Yeah. And so then, as I mentioned, the golf tournament kind of took a nosedive in 2012, 2013. And 2014, we had gone from 144 down to 124, down to 86 golfers. And so in the, I think we hit the low in 2015. And then in 2016, we got the committee together. And Don Denkener and I were the co-chairs of the committee. And we had Peter Mead, and we had Don Bell, and Mary Louise Lambarkus, and Bill McCoach, and a few others. And we kind of sat around and we said, look, you know, the way we're going is we're going to hit 0 golfers in our trend if we don't turn this thing around.
Right.
So we either need to decide that we're going to reorganize ourselves and make this like a business and run it like a business, where we're not worrying about $10 here, $10 there in cost, which we had a lot of our older members back there at that time, very cost conscious, but not very business conscious. You know, sometimes you got to spend a little money to make a little money. So we said, okay, we want to turn it around. Because if people didn't want to turn it around, then the club had to decide we're going to
Do something else.
You know, keep it going until we find out what we want to do. No, they said we want to do it. So we said, well, what do we need to do? We need more golfers. Okay, what do we need to get more golfers? What do we have to do? Okay. Where else can we make money? Sponsors. Well, we didn't have many sponsors. Okay, so are we willing to go out and do some work? Yeah, we are. All right, where else do we make money? Well, we make money on auctions.
Yeah.
So the silent and the live auction. Okay, well, let's go out and find ourselves an auctioneer.
Okay.
So, you know, that's the kind of thing. So then what are the things we need to do to attract people to it? Well, we got to make them more aware that there's a golf tournament, it's for charity, and you come have some fun. So we added things like the bazooka, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and some other things.
That's fun.
Yeah. And over time, just in a matter of a couple of years, you know, instead of making $18,000 at our low in 2005 when we had 86 players, we were making 40 and 50 and 60. Thousands of dollars, exactly.
Yeah.
And every year, at the end of the tournament, when it was done, we'd always get together at the committee and we do an assessment of what went right and where can we make those even better if we need to, and what went wrong and what we need to do to correct that problems.
And you started that process.
Right.
And that still continues
Still
today.
continues. And so it's like a company. You want to make annual improvements every year in the areas that you do it. You can drive the business. And now I think, you know, I really stopped being the chair probably a couple of years ago, although I stayed on and helped because nobody really wanted the job because it's a tough job. But now that we've got it pretty well organized, one of the things that we've been able to do is get more people involved in it. Like we got Debbie Bailey to take care of organizing the volunteers.
You've created.
Stephen Fair was really good in getting some better thoughts on the way we should register and things like this that allowed us to do some reductions on things the way we were doing it, rather than buying the service outside. We've been able to handle it now inside.
Those are some accomplishments that you began that still continue today.
Right.
And hopefully will continue in the future because they make so much sense, Bill. And that really, that comes back to you.
Well,
Thank you.
what that golf tournament does when we make that extra 40 to 60,000, because it kind of varies year over year, is it allows the club to go out and not only do more good in the community,
Amen.
okay, but it can have a major impact on some of the charities. Like back when we were making $15,000, $18,000, we couldn't afford to give out $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 checks, which might really make a significant impact on the charity.
Right.
You know, we had to give out 500 or 1,000, maybe 1,500. So that's the reason we do that golf tournament.
Well, I'm going to skip through a couple of these things because your accomplishments are well documented on this already video. But so I'm going to ask to flip it here a minute. Can you describe the feelings as of now, how you feel when you enter the club meeting room, and what does the club mean to you as you go forward and as you enter the room on Tuesdays?
Well, when I enter the room, you know, I always look forward to the Rotary meetings. So,
And why is that?
And I like the personal meetings rather than
Zoom?
the Zoom. Although Zoom, if there's no other alternative, is what I like to do. But I like when you go into that room, you get a feeling that you're seeing people that have this kind of the same views you do on service. They're willing to put in the time and the effort to do the many projects that we do, and we do a lot more projects now. We do a lot more of the people are involved now, I think, in projects than we did just a few years ago. And it's fun to talk to people regarding the projects they're working on, what the problems they're having. You know, can I help you with anything like that? And it gives you an opportunity that's seeing what's going on, and it's a good way to build camaraderie, because I always like to go early and kind of circulate before the breakfast or whatever, because that's the way you build relationships and you get people to work on your projects.
And your first to step up to, as I know, because I asked you yesterday, 28 hours ago, from this interview time, if you would do this. So there was no hesitation.
And it was an honor to be asked.
All right. I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to milk this.
Okay, go ahead.
So what is it that you want to tell? This is a good one. What is it you want to tell prospective members, people who come to our club but they're kind of like a non-Rotarian, and they become a Bill Schink and they go to the Woodinville Rotary Club and make a pitch. Now, here today, we have this capacity, it's years later now, to say, well, if you want to know about our club, go to the YouTube channel and learn from others who have expressed their views on why they are and continue to be a Rotarian. So what would you think you could tell today those people who will look at this in the future about maintaining? What is it that keeps you maintaining your club membership that you want to tell the folks who look at this in the future?
Well, I want to continue to be a Rotarian because it fills a real need in my life. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, I like to do projects, and I like those projects to do good.
Amen.
for the community, the club, the world, because, I mean, when we're saying Rotary Club, we're really talking about being one club among many in Rotary International. So there's a lot of support out there for us to work on projects and to do good. And this is a place to do it. And it gives people an opportunity to work on those kinds of things. Maybe they like to do leadership roles. So this is a great place to come, be a vice president, president-elect, president, director, committee heads, lead, follow, whatever's your wish in life. I mean, most people that come to a service club are expecting to do service and to do those things you need to do the service. And they can't come to a better club in terms of the people that they deal with and associate with than this club. And so, you know, and I'm going to be a member of Rotary until I can't walk anymore.
Well, that's high praise, and I think that's well spoken. So I guess I'll have the last question, and I do want to say thanks also.
You're welcome.
And I don't think anybody. So before I ask the question, I'm going to preface it with this: I don't think anybody goes into a room, a meeting, a service club, an organization, a company, and says, my legacy is going to be something. What do you want? What do I want my legacy to be? And I don't think you can say that until you've been in an organization, company, service club for years, and you understand what the word legacy means. And I know that when I started this project in 2012, I never